Hi guys, in this video we are going to start with a new chapter, surface chemistry. Unlike other topics, this chapter has a lot of theory part in it. We don't have any calculations, we have theory part. So I want you to listen to my lecture carefully. If you listen to my talking, then only you'll be able to understand the concepts in a clear way. So when we say surface, the top layer of the sample of a substance is known as its surface. Certain properties of the substances, particularly those of the solids and liquids, are related to their surface. For example, in liquid, the molecules are present on the surface of the liquid behave differently than those present in the interior. A molecule of liquid within the liquid is attracted equally in all directions by the surrounding molecules. As a result, the resultant pull on this molecule is nil. But the molecule present on the surface of the liquid is pulled by the molecules below and besides it, because no liquid molecules are present above it. This leads to the imbalance of the forces at the surface of the liquid. As a result, these molecules of liquid on the surface have a desire to take up molecules of a gas or any other substance in order to release the surface tension which they are experiencing because of the inward pull. This tendency is even more prominent in case of metals, particularly the transition metals, which have unutilized free valencies on their surface due to the presence of vacant or half-filled orbital. So because of these unbalanced forces on the surface, these liquid, or in the case of solids, they behave differently. So the branch of chemistry which deals with the nature of the surface and the species present on it is called surface chemistry. In this video session, we are going to see about what is adsorption, what is the mechanism of adsorption, and the difference between adsorption and absorption, thermodynamical feasibility of adsorption, and types of adsorption. I just told you that the surfaces of both solids and liquids have certain unbalanced forces, as a result of which they have a tendency to take certain particles, particularly those belonging to gases. This tendency is more in case of solids than in liquids. Now let's take this as a solid. When this solid is finely divided, they have residual forces because the interatomic bonds of the molecules get cleaved when the solid is broken into fine pieces. Due to these forces, the surface of the solid, so this is the solid, and the surface of the solid has a tendency to attract the molecules of a gas or a liquid when they come in contact. So let us take this as pieces of the solid and this as a molecule of gas or liquid. So when they come in contact with this solid, what happens? The molecules get attracted by the finely divided solid and they remain on the surface. They remain on the surface only and do not penetrate into the bulk of the solid. See, they are just around the surface, but they are not going deep inside the bulk of the solid. There is a high concentration of these gas species or liquid species on the surface than in the bulk, and they are said to be adsorbed on the surface. So we can define adsorption as the accumulation of molecular species at the surface rather than in the bulk of a solid or liquid. In the example I showed you a piece of solid, it can be liquid also, and the species getting adsorbed on the surface can be gas or liquid. So the accumulation of molecular species at the surface rather than in the bulk is called as adsorption. When we talk about adsorption, we use two different terms. One is adsorbent, the other one is adsorbate. So what is adsorbent? The solid substance on the surface of which adsorption occurs. So this is the solid substance, on its surface only adsorption is happening. So this solid is called as the adsorbent. And what is adsorbate? The molecular species, either gas or liquid, that get adsorbed on the solid surface. is called as adsorbate. So the species getting adsorbed is adsorbate, and the solid on which the adsorption is happening is called as adsorbent. So these two are held together by intermolecular force of attraction. Now let's see a few illustrations to understand the concept of adsorption. So the first illustration, we are taking a gas like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide or ammonia. When it is enclosed in a vessel, it has a certain pressure because they collide with each other and they bombard against the walls of the container, so they exert certain pressure. Now you are going to place a small amount of powdered charcoal in that vessel. After certain time, you can note the pressure of the gas again. You will notice that there will be a decrease in the pressure after keeping the powdered charcoal. So this indicates some of the gas molecules have been adsorbed on the porous charcoal powder. So the drop in pressure after placing the charcoal indicates that adsorption has taken place on the surface of the charcoal. And the next example, you are going to take organic dye. For example, blue litmus, which is blue in color, in the diluted form in a beaker. Now again we are going to place powdered charcoal or animal charcoal in the beaker and shake it for some time. And now when you filter the solution and note the color, it will definitely fade, which indicates that charcoal has adsorbed a certain amount of that blue dye. So again, what has happened? Adsorption has happened. And the last one, you know the color of raw sugar, it is brown in color. So the brown sugar, which is the raw sugar, in order to decolorize, we have to dissolve a small amount of that sugar in water taken in a beaker. Now if you place a pinch of animal charcoal in it and keep it undisturbed for some time and then filter and crystallize the sugar, then it will be colorless. Again, this indicates what? The animal charcoal has adsorbed the coloring matter from the sugar, turning it into white. And the last illustration, when the weather is very humid, which means when there are more water vapors in the atmosphere, silica gel helps in absorbing water vapors from air and provides some relief. If you buy a leather handbag or leather shoes, you would have seen a small packet inside that. That is silica gel, which helps in absorbing the moisture. So when this silica gel is kept in leather handbags or shoes, it can absorb the moisture, keeping the leather moisture free. So all these are examples of adsorption. Now let's see the mechanism of adsorption. What happens during adsorption? Why the molecules of gas or liquid, they get adsorbed only on the surface, and why don't they get into the bulk of the adsorbent? As I told you, adsorption is a surface phenomenon. When you take a solid, the atoms in a solid are held together by certain binding forces, which are mainly called as van der Waals forces, and it may be chemical forces also. But the unutilized or unbalanced forces on the surface make the solid quite active. Now look at this picture. This is the piece of solid, and these dotted lines are the unbalanced forces. So they make this surface of the solid very active. And moreover, when this solid is broken into two or more pieces, new surfaces are formed and the number of the unbalanced forces become more. Now see here, now when this is broken, now this is a piece of solid, now when you break it, see the unbalanced forces, it is more. So in other words, you can say the number of active centers, we call these unbalanced forces as active centers or free valencies, they become more by taking the adsorbent in a powdered form. So this is solid form. When it is in powdered form, then the number of active centers increases. Now, due to the unbalanced forces on the surface, the atoms or molecules on the surface have a tendency to attract and retain the molecules of gases or liquids when they come in contact with the surface. So this is a piece of solid with active centers. Now imagine liquid or gas coming in contact with this surface. What will happen? The gas molecules or liquid molecules, they get attracted when they come in contact with the surface and they are retained on this surface. This results into higher concentration at the surface than in the bulk, and this leads to adsorption. So mainly these active centers on the solid is responsible for the adsorption. And since active centers are present on the surface, adsorption is a surface phenomenon because the species of liquid and gas are getting adsorbed, accumulated on the surface than in the bulk. So unbalanced forces on the surface of the solid, which are called as active centers, and they are present on the adsorbent, and they have a tendency to attract and retain the molecules of gases and liquids, which are the adsorbate, and this leads to adsorption. And we have variety of adsorbents, and few examples I have written here: activated charcoal, animal charcoal, silica gel, alumina gel, clay, colloids, which we will be learning in detail in this chapter. Metals in finely divided state, metals like copper, nickel and palladium in finely divided states, they are all very good example of adsorbents. This process of adsorption is of reversible nature, that is, the species which get adsorbed on the surface of the adsorbent have a tendency to come out of the surface. So the reverse of adsorption is possible, and that is called as desorption. So what is desorption? The reverse of adsorption. The process of removing an adsorbed substance from a surface on which it is adsorbed is called desorption. This desorption can be done by increasing the temperature. The desorption is very common in gases which are adsorbed on the surface of finely divided metals as a result of weak van der Waals force. So when the force is very weak, then desorption is possible. As we are very familiar with absorption, now let's know the difference between adsorption and absorption. Just now we studied that adsorption is a surface phenomenon, which means it occurs only on the surface of the adsorbent. But the another phenomenon, absorption, it is not related to the surface alone but occurs throughout the body of the substance. For example, when you take ammonia gas and pass it through water, the molecules of ammonia get uniformly distributed in water, and we say that ammonia has been absorbed by water. So the phenomenon as a result of which the molecular species of one substance are accumulated on the surface as well as inside, that is throughout the substance, is called as absorption. AB, not D, absorption. Now these are the differences between absorption and adsorption. The first point, absorption is a bulk phenomenon. It happens on the surface and also inside the. And adsorption, it's a surface phenomenon. It happens only on the surface of the substance. And the next point, the concentration is same throughout the material, but the concentration on the surface is different from the bulk. Here absorption proceeds at a uniform rate. Here it is rapid in the beginning and the rate slowly decreases. Look at this picture. In this beaker we have water vapors, and here silica gel is dipped, and here we have again water vapors, and what is dipped inside? Anhydrous calcium chloride. When anhydrous calcium chloride is dipped in water vapors, there is uniform distribution of water vapors throughout the anhydrous calcium chloride, and we call this as absorption. But in the case of silica gel, the water vapors are adsorbed only on the surface. There is higher concentration of water vapors on the surface of the silica gel, and we call this phenomenon as adsorption. And the last term, sorption. When both adsorption and absorption takes place simultaneously, we call that phenomenon as sorption. For example, when you soak a cotton pack in a bottle of ink, it can be either blue or black ink, what will happen? The ink gets adsorbed as well as absorbed on the cotton fibers. So the ink can get adsorbed and also absorbed on the cotton fiber, and that process is called as sorption. So we have seen 4 different terms: adsorption, absorption, desorption and sorption. From now on we will be focusing mainly on the adsorption process. Whenever we talk about a process, we relate it with the thermodynamics, because thermodynamics can predict whether a process is feasible or not. We use the term Gibbs free energy change to know whether a reaction is possible or not. If delta G value is negative, then the reaction is feasible. Same way for adsorption process, we are going to see the thermodynamical feasibility. So we have learned that adsorption is due to attraction between molecules of adsorbent and adsorbate. Why there is an attraction between adsorbent and adsorbate? Because there are unbalanced forces on the surface of the adsorbent. So when the adsorbate gets attracted on the adsorbent, which had unbalanced forces, there will be decrease in the residual forces. So when there is decrease in the residual forces, there will be decrease in the surface energy. So that decrease in the surface energy appears as heat, which means heat is given out during the process of adsorption. So when heat is given out during a process, we call that as exothermic. We call that heat as enthalpy of adsorption, and it is represented as delta H, and when it is exothermic, delta H is equal to negative. So why adsorption is exothermic? Because the decrease in surface energy of the system is given out as heat. So the process is exothermic. So the delta H value is negative. Same way, when the adsorbent is getting, adsorbate is getting attracted on the adsorbent, the randomness also decreases. What is randomness? Before the adsorption, the adsorbed species were in gaseous or liquid state. Once they get adsorbed on the adsorbent, they are bound to the adsorbent. So what happens? The random movement of the molecule decreases. So here in thermodynamics, we represent this randomness with the term S, entropy. So when randomness decreases, entropy change becomes negative. So for adsorption, delta H is negative and delta S is also negative. So now let's study the feasibility of this adsorption phenomenon in light of Gibbs-Helmholtz equation. So this is Gibbs-Helmholtz equation. Delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. And remember, for a process to be feasible, delta G should be negative. For adsorption, delta H is negative and delta S is also negative. So when you put that sign conventions, you get delta G is equal to minus delta H plus T delta S. Delta H is negative, okay. So for delta G to be negative, this term should be less, or else delta G will get a positive value. So if this term should be less, then temperature should be low. So remember, this adsorption process is feasible mainly at low temperature. So for adsorption, we get delta G negative, which makes the process feasible when temperature is low. So adsorption is feasible mainly at low temperatures. Now let's move on to the last topic of this video, types of adsorption. There are two types of adsorption depending upon the force of attraction between the adsorbent and adsorbate. They are physisorption and chemisorption. Physical adsorption is called as physisorption. Chemical adsorption is called as chemisorption. When the particles of the adsorbate are held on the surface of the adsorbent by physical forces such as van der Waals forces, then it is called as physical adsorption. When the molecules of the adsorbate and adsorbent are held together by stronger forces similar to chemical bonds, then the adsorption is known as Chemisorption. So here van der Waals forces of attraction, here chemical bond formation. In the case of physisorption, since it arises mainly because of van der Waals forces, it is not specific in nature, which means any gas can be adsorbed on the surface of any solid adsorbent. But in the case of chemisorption, it is highly specific because it is due to the formation of chemical bonds between the adsorbent and adsorbate. So, not like physisorption, any gas can get adsorbed on any solid surface. Chemisorption is highly specific in nature. In the case of physisorption, it occurs at low temperature. But chemisorption occurs at a high temperature because chemical reaction is going to take place that needs more energy. And the next point, the extent of physisorption is proportional to the ease of liquefaction of the gas. Since physical adsorption is non-specific in nature, every gas will get adsorbed on the surface of any solid to a lesser or a greater extent. The only criteria for the extent of adsorption is the magnitude of the attractive forces which exist between the particles of the adsorbent and adsorbate. And that can be predicted from the ease with which the gas can be liquefied. For example, under given conditions of temperature and pressure, the easily liquefiable gases like ammonia, hydrogen chloride and carbon dioxide are adsorbed to greater extent than the gases like H2O2 and N2, which are liquefied with difficulty. What is meant by liquefaction? You are changing the physical state of gas into a liquid. Generally, the ease of the liquefaction of gases can be compared in terms of their critical temperature. Critical temperature is defined as the minimum temperature above which a gas cannot be liquefied, however large pressure you apply. So that minimum temperature is called as critical temperature. So greater value of critical temperature, easier will be the liquefaction of gas, more will be the extent of adsorption. So they ask you questions like this. They'll give you the gas and their critical temperature and they ask you which gas gets adsorbed more easily. Look at this. Greater the critical value temperature, more extent will be the adsorption. Now look here, for hydrogen it is 33 Kelvin, nitrogen 126 Kelvin, carbon monoxide 134 Kelvin. So for methane 190. Now which has got the higher critical temperature? Ammonia. So ammonia gets adsorbed more easily. So in this order, the extent of adsorption increases. This is in the case of physisorption. So in the case of physisorption, the extent of adsorption is proportional to the ease of liquefaction. But in the case of chemisorption, we don't have such correlation. We don't have any relationship between the ease of liquefaction and the extent of adsorption. And the next point, physisorption forms multimolecular layers. Because in the case of physisorption, the molecules are just getting attracted on the surface. So they can form multimolecular layers. But in the case of chemisorption, the molecules of the adsorbate form chemical bonds with those of the adsorbent. So only one layer of the adsorbate can participate in the bond formation and no more bonds will be available for the multimolecular layer. So in the case of chemisorption, it forms only unimolecular layer. In the case of physisorption, it can form multimolecular layers. And the next point, the enthalpy of adsorption. We said this adsorption process is exothermic, so heat is given out. In the case of physisorption, the enthalpy of adsorption is low. It is in the range of 20 to 40 kilojoule mole inverse. But in the case of chemisorption, it is high, 80 to 240 kilojoule mole inverse, because here chemical reaction is involved. And in physisorption, no appreciable activation energy is needed. Activation energy is the minimum energy required to cause a chemical reaction or any process. Since this is physisorption, here we don't need much activation energy, but here we need high activation energy because chemical reaction is going to happen. And last point, it depends upon the surface area. Physisorption depends upon the surface area. Same way, chemisorption also depends on the surface area. Just I told you, larger the surface area of the adsorbent, it favors the adsorption because the particles of both adsorbent and adsorbate get more opportunity to interact with each other. So as the surface area increases, both physisorption and chemisorption increases. So when they ask you differences, you can write all these points. When they ask you a similarity, you can say both physisorption and chemisorption depend upon the surface area. So in the upcoming videos, we will learn in more detail about the adsorption. Thank you.